Most people spend their entire lives chasing the top, working toward that one moment when the whole world finally knows their name. When the album goes #1, when the stadium sells out in minutes, when the reviews call it a masterpiece. And then there are the ones who got there and walked away. Not because they failed, not because the music stopped, but because something inside them broke, or burned out, or decided that the price of staying was higher than the price of leaving. These are 10 rock frontmen who were at the absolute peak of their fame and chose to disappear anyway. And every single one of their stories is stranger than you think. Number 10. Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits. At exactly 10 minutes past 10 on the evening of October 9th, 1992, Mark Knopfler said goodnight to 40,000 people in Zaragoza, Spain, walked off stage, and never performed as the leader of Dire Straits again. No announcement, no farewell tour, no final album. He just stopped. Brothers in Arms had sold more than 30 million copies worldwide. Money for Nothing had been the first video ever aired on MTV Europe. Walk of Life was inescapable. Dire Straits were one of the biggest bands on the planet. I should learn how to play on that guitar. And Knopfler wanted none of it. He later told a journalist what he had told himself on the way out. We got so big that we had 3 stages leapfrogging around in front of each other. And you'd walk into catering and see some guy you just didn't know. And I didn't like that. Didn't want to be that size. When CBS News asked him whether he minded the success, but not the fame, he replied, "I can't think of anything good about fame. Can you?" He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018. He did not attend the ceremony. He was not there when they called his name. Knopfler has continued making music as a solo artist and says he is proud of the Dire Straits songs. He just has no intention of ever going back to them. Some people walk away from fame. Knopfler designed the exit before anyone else even knew the show was ending. Number 9. Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd. She's often inclined to borrow some. In January 1968, the members of Pink Floyd were driving to a show in Southampton. One of them asked if they should go and pick up Syd. Someone else, probably Roger Waters, said, "No, let's not." And they drove on. There is no other day. That was how Pink Floyd's founding frontman was fired. They simply did not collect him. But his dreams till tomorrow. Syd Barrett had formed the band in 1965. He had written their early hits, Arnold Lane, See Emily Play, and created the psychedelic sound that made them famous. But he had also been taking enormous quantities of LSD, and by late 1967, his mental health had collapsed in ways nobody around him fully understood at the time. He would detune his guitar on stage until it was unplayable. He would stand motionless in front of a live microphone. He would walk off mid-performance without explanation. Pink Floyd brought in David Gilmour initially just to cover for Barrett on the nights he could not function. When it became clear that those nights were every night, the decision was made quietly and permanently. Barrett was left behind. He recorded 2 solo albums in 1970 with help from his former bandmates, then retreated entirely, first to London, then eventually to his mother's house in Cambridge, where he spent the rest of his life painting and gardening. He never performed in public again. In 1975, Pink Floyd were recording Wish You Were Here, an album written entirely about Barrett, when he walked unannounced into the studio. Nobody recognized him at first. He had shaved his head and eyebrows and gained considerable weight. Roger Waters cried. David Gilmour cried. Barrett asked when the album was coming out, then left. He died in 2006 of pancreatic cancer. Pink Floyd dedicated their career to a man they had driven past on the way to Southampton. Let's try it another way.
If you just learned something you never knew before, there is a whole lot more where that came from. Hit subscribe to The Rock Lens. Every single week we go deeper into the real stories, secrets, and hidden history behind the music you have loved your whole life. The button is right there. One click. We will see you in the next one.
Number 8. Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses. On July 17, 1993, Guns N' Roses played their final show of the Use Your Illusion tour at River Plate Stadium in Buenos Aires, Argentina. 192 shows, 27 countries, 2.5 years on the road. And then Axl Rose went home and essentially vanished. Use Your Illusion. 1 and 2 had debuted at numbers 2 and 1 on the Billboard chart simultaneously. November Rain had a music video that cost $1.5 million. The band was the biggest hard rock act on earth. And then it was over. Rose became so reclusive that by 2000, when he showed up at a bar on the Sunset Strip and sat down quietly with a baseball cap pulled low, the bar's owner had to be tipped off by the bartender. Nobody had known what he looked like for years. The collapse happened in stages. Guitarist Slash had been pushing for new material, and Rose had rejected everything he brought in. Rose had legally secured the Guns N' Roses band name during the Use Your Illusion tour, threatening to cancel shows unless ownership was handed to him. And when the other members left one by one, he was the one who remained. He spent the next 15 years in a Malibu mansion, reportedly working on an album called Chinese Democracy that had already become a running joke before it was ever released. Chinese Democracy came out in 2008. It had cost an estimated $13 million to make. It sold 261,000 copies in its first week, a figure that would have been a hit for anyone else, but was a humiliation for the man who had once headlined every stadium on earth. Rose had walked away from the top of the world and spent a decade trying to find his way back. By then, the world had moved on without him. Number 7. Roger Waters, Pink Floyd. Roger Waters wrote The Wall in 1979 from a place of genuine crisis. The album was a meditation on isolation, on the barriers a human being builds between themselves and the world. First, just the basic fact. The record went to number 1. The live production was one of the most elaborate in rock history. A literal wall built on stage, brick by brick, until the band was completely hidden behind it. The metaphor was not subtle. It was also not fictional. By the time the wall was finished, Waters had fired keyboardist Richard Wright during the recording sessions. The final cut in 1983 was so dominated by Waters that the other band members had almost no creative input. Gilmour later described his own contribution to that album as minimal. Waters had decided, by this point, that Pink Floyd was a spent force creatively, his words, and that there was no point continuing. He quit in 1985. Then he tried to legally prevent the remaining members, Gilmour, Mason, and Wright, from continuing to use the Pink Floyd name. He lost that legal battle. Pink Floyd went on without him, releasing 2 further studio albums. Waters was furious. He called it fraudulent. Gilmour called it the band surviving.
That'll keep you going.
The full weight of the departure came into focus in 1990 when Waters staged a concert of The Wall live in Berlin, a production that drew 450,000 people. He had walked away from the band at the absolute peak of their combined power, launched a years-long legal war to stop them using their own name, and then gone on to perform their most famous work in front of nearly 500,000 people alone. The Wall was always his. He just had to leave the band to prove it.
Through the show. Come on, it's time.
Number 6. Jim Morrison, The Doors.
Like a dog without a bone and
The last time Jim Morrison sang in public was on a studio session for the album L.A. Woman in the final weeks of 1970. He whispered the closing lines of Riders on the Storm into a microphone, said goodbye to the band, and flew to Paris. He never sang in a studio or on a stage again. Morrison had been the Lizard King, the leather-clad, beautiful, terrifying frontman who had made the Doors one of the defining bands of the 1960s. Light My Fire, People Are Strange, L.A. Woman. He had been arrested for alleged indecent exposure at a Miami concert in 1969 and was facing a potential 6-month prison sentence. He was drinking heavily. He had gained weight. He was barely recognizable from the man who had stood on stage 3 years earlier looking like a fallen angel. Paris was meant to be a fresh start. He moved into an apartment with his girlfriend, Pamela Corson, hung out with the artistic elite, vacationed in Morocco, and tried to reinvent himself as a serious poet. The band was still going. L.A. Woman was still being mixed. There were plans for more music. Morrison told the remaining Doors he would be back.
like a dog without a bone and ignorant.
He was found dead in the bathtub of his Paris apartment on July 3, 1971. He was 27 years old. No autopsy was ever performed. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure. Doors historian Danny Sugerman later claimed that Corson had given Morrison heroin, telling him it was cocaine mixed with downers, and that the more potent drug had killed him in the bath. The truth has never been established with certainty. L.A. Woman was released 2 months after his death and is now considered one of the greatest rock albums ever made. Morrison had walked out on the band, on the fame, and on the persona that had consumed him. He just did not survive the exit. Number 5. Lauryn Hill, The Fugees. In February 1999, Lauryn Hill stood on the Grammy stage and accepted 5 awards in a single evening, more than any woman had ever won in one night. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill had debuted at number 1. It had gone diamond. Doo-wop, That Thing, had made her the first woman to debut simultaneously at number 1 on both the Billboard 200 and the Hot 100. She was 23 years old, and she was untouchable. 2 years later, she was gone. The retreat did not happen in a single moment. It accumulated. A group of session musicians called New Ark filed a lawsuit claiming they had contributed significantly to the album's creation and been denied credit. The case settled out of court, but left Hill shaken. She said later it had fundamentally altered her ability to trust. Then she met a spiritual advisor named Brother Anthony, whose influence on her was described by people close to her as intense and controlling. Pros from the Fugees told Rolling Stone the man was on, quote, some real cult shit. Hill told NPR in 2010 that the support system she needed to survive in the music industry was simply never there in the way she required it. She had 5 children by this point. She stopped releasing albums. She showed up to concerts late, sometimes hours late, to the frustration of audiences who had already waited years for her return. She has never released a proper follow-up to Miseducation. Apple Music named it the greatest album of all time in 2023. The woman who made it has not made another one. She was at the absolute top of the world, and she decided the view was not worth what it cost to stand there. Number 4. Thom Yorke, Radiohead. In 1996, Radiohead were in the middle of a tour to support the Bends when Thom Yorke simply stopped. Not the band, just Yorke himself. He had been writing music, performing music, and promoting music for years without pause, and something had broken. He told an interviewer later, "I just couldn't do it anymore. I was completely and utterly empty." This was before OK Computer, before Kid A, before Radiohead became one of the most critically acclaimed bands of their generation. They were already successful. Creep had made them famous. The Bends had confirmed they were serious, but Yorke was not fulfilled. He found the promotional cycle dehumanizing. He found touring physically and mentally exhausting. He found the expectation that he would perform the same songs night after night in the same way a kind of artistic death. He retreated to his house in Oxford and did not work for several months. Bandmate Ed O'Brien later told interviewers that Yorke had been in a genuinely dark place and that no one in the band was sure he was going to come back. When he did come back, it was with the material that became OK Computer, released in 1997 and now almost universally considered one of the greatest albums ever made. The Breakdown had produced the breakthrough. Yorke later described the empty period as necessary, as the only way to find out whether he actually wanted to make music or had just been doing it out of inertia. He wanted to. He just needed to not want to for a while first. He has since walked out at various other points, taking extended hiatuses between Radiohead albums, launching solo projects, collaborating outside the band. Always on his own terms, always without apology. The exit is part of how he works. Number 3. Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters.
Everyone's got the chains to break.
In 2006, Dave Grohl sat in a hotel room in Rio de Janeiro and decided the Foo Fighters were finished.
The best of you. We're so
He called the other members and told them he was done. He had been in the band for 11 years. He was the driving force behind every record, every tour, every decision. And he was exhausted in a way that had gone past physical tiredness into something deeper.
You gave me something that
The Foo Fighters had just headlined Rock in Rio in front of 100,000 people. The album In Your Honor had sold well. The band was at a genuine career peak.
too strong to lose.
And Grohl could not bear it anymore. He later told an interviewer, "I sat in the hotel room the night of that show and just thought, I can't do this anymore. I called the guys and said I want to break the band up." The members talked him out of it. Drummer Taylor Hawkins told Grohl directly that the Foo Fighters were not just Grohl's band. They belonged to all of them. That conversation, Grohl said later, changed his thinking. He realized that what he needed was not to end the band, but to change how he was running it. He had been treating it like a solo project with extra members. It needed to become a real collaboration. The band did not break up. They went on to record Echo, Silence, Patience and Grace, which won 5 Grammy Awards, and became one of the most successful rock acts of the 2000s. Grohl has since spoken openly about the hotel room moment as the closest the Foo Fighters ever came to ending. The thing that saved them was not Grohl's willpower. It was Taylor Hawkins refusing to let go. Hawkins died in March 2022 of an accidental drug overdose while on tour in Colombia. The Foo Fighters have continued without him. And Grohl has spoken about the hotel room in Rio differently ever since, as the night he almost walked away from the person who would later save him too. Number 2. Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. In January 1994, Kurt Cobain checked into a private clinic in Rome with what was reported at the time as food poisoning. He had consumed 50 Rohypnol tablets and a bottle of champagne. His wife, Courtney Love, found him unconscious and called an ambulance. The Rome incident was, in retrospect, a warning that was not acted on with enough urgency by anyone around him. Cobain had been trying to escape Nirvana for longer than most people knew. He had told his manager Danny Goldberg that he wanted to break the band up as far back as 1992, less than a year after Nevermind had changed the world. He was uncomfortable with the scale of the fame. He was in physical pain from an undiagnosed stomach condition that had plagued him for years. He found the expectation that he would keep performing the songs from an album he had already said he was embarrassed by to be a form of imprisonment. In March 1994, Cobain's interventionist and family persuaded him to enter the Exodus Recovery Center in Los Angeles. He checked in. 3 days later, he climbed the facility's perimeter fence and flew back to Seattle. He had taken the exit that was visible and walked past it toward one that was not. He died on April 5, 1994. He was 27. The note he left behind quoted Neil Young, "It is better to burn out than to fade away," and then contradicted it, saying he had no longer felt the excitement of making or listening to music. He had told people he wanted to walk away from Nirvana for years. Nobody had taken him seriously enough. He had been at the absolute top of rock music, the most famous frontman on earth, and the only exit he could find was a permanent one. Number 1. Freddie Mercury, Queen. Freddie Mercury did not walk away from fame voluntarily. Fame walked away from him first, in the form of a diagnosis that, in 1987, carried a near-certain death sentence. But what Mercury chose to do with the years he had left is one of the most extraordinary acts of defiance in the history of rock music. Queen's final studio album with Mercury was Innuendo, released in February 1991. By the time it came out, Mercury had been living with AIDS for years. He had told almost nobody, not even most of the people he worked with. The band's inner circle knew. The public did not. And Freddie Mercury continued to record. He recorded until he could no longer stand. He recorded sitting down. He recorded vocals for songs he knew he would never perform live, that he knew would outlast him. On November 23, 1991, Mercury issued a public statement confirming he had AIDS. It was the first public acknowledgement of the illness that had been consuming him. He died the following day. He was 45 years old. Bohemian Rhapsody had been number 1 in the UK twice by that point. Once in 1975 and again following his death. The concert at Wembley Stadium during the Live Aid benefit in 1985, 21 minutes, a borrowed crowd of 72,000, and a performance that is now considered the greatest live moment in rock history, had been his in full. Mercury had not walked away from the stage. He had been removed from it, but in the years between his diagnosis and his death, he had chosen to keep working with a discipline and a dignity that nobody who was watching understood at the time. John Deacon, Queen's bass player, played his final show with the surviving members in 1997 and then retired completely and permanently. He said the idea of performing without Freddie was something he simply could not reconcile with being in Queen. Some people walk away from fame. Some people understand that the thing they were famous for cannot exist without the people who made it. Deacon chose silence, and in that silence, he said more than most musicians manage in a career.